Oh, hey there.
Oh, hey there.
How's it going today?
I'm good, neighbor. How are you?
Neighbor. We're the history buffoons.
I am. You are.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, we are.
That is Kate.
I am Kate.
I am Bradley.
Welcome.
Why are we doing that whole thing over again?
So we just came from...
Our favorite bar in Elkhart Lake.
Let's call it a working lunch.
No, actually, it was a working lunch because we were talking our podcast up to people.
Yes, so we want to give a shout out to our bar neighbors, Paul and Janie, I believe is her name.
I think that was.
In Elkhart Lake.
They were super nice and they're very receptive to what we do. So
yeah, and they were lovely to speak to. So shout out to them.
And they actually gave us a potential origin topic. So
yes.
We'll see if that comes to fruition. That'd be great.
And for those of you who have started to follow us recently, thank you so much.
Yes, and please, go review us and rate us on wherever you get your podcast from, Apple, Spotify, anything like that, because it definitely helps us, and we like to hear what people think. Yeah. And we know not everyone's going to like us, but we hope most people do. So...
And we are also a little bit more active on YouTube.
Yep, we've been putting up our shorts on there for our episodes.
And we have our long form on there as well. And that has been a continuous thing. But we're just a touch more active on there now. And then we're also on TikTok as well.
Yes, and also, in addition to rate and review us, please reach out to History Buffoons Podcast at Gmail and send us any questions, comments,
topic ideas.
We would love to hear from some people to, just help grow the podcast and hopefully help everyone who does listen to it enjoy it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for the newcomers who are just starting to listen. We appreciate you.
We definitely do.
And we absolutely appreciate the ones who've been with us from the start. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Tara.
And my parents.
Thanks, Kate's parents.
So you bought us a couple of Leinenkugel beers that I didn't know existed.
Well, I knew that one existed. I didn't know they had it in a 19.2 ounce form. The one I got for myself, it must be relatively new. I've never seen this before. But I saw these and I'm like, well, these are good podcast beers. And plus they're 19.2 ounce, so we get a little bit of a taller boy. Not even a tall boy. It's a taller boy. Oh,
they're taller than a tall boy?
Tall boys are 16 ounce.
Oh.
These are 19.2. So what do you have?
I have the Leinenkugel's Barrelman Ale, which is an amber ale, and it is a proud supporter of the Milwaukee Brewers, which I have really come to love over the last 2 years.
Yep.
And Barrelman was a mascot.
He was their original logo for the Brewers.
The original logo, and he's a current mascot as well, right?
He does show up at Brewers games.
Yes.
But he was their original logo back in the day.
Yes.
And it's kind of your style, so I'm hoping you like it. I've never had it myself.
Yeah, this is an amber ale. Did I say that already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I have a Leinenkugel's Tropical Hazy IPA.
Oh, and you've not had that one?
I didn't know they made a Tropical Hazy. They usually don't make IPAs, so I was really excited that I saw this. It's got a hop with sunglasses lounging in a canoe on the lake.
What's a hop look like?
It's flowery looking. I don't know if you can see it from there.
I cannot, but I will look up close when I'm able to.
But yeah, it's kind of like a bud almost. It looks like a budding flower.
Like a Bud Light?
Anyways, so let's crack our beers. So
it's like a flower bud?
In a way.
Oh, okay.
Not exactly, but I was trying to best describe it to you. Penny, you're supposed to be good.
Literally all my cats are put away except for Penny because she's not one for bribery.
And she's usually not the one to make noise, but yet here we are. So cheers.
Cheers. Oh, delicious.
Ooh, not bad.
I have had a couple beers already. I'm not going to lie. I'm feeling pretty good.
I'm going to lie. I've had a couple beers too. And by a couple, I mean more than that. So in Wisconsin, when you say, I'm going to go have a beer, that means
at least a couple.
That means 2 to 3.
Yeah.
When you say you have a couple beers, means 5 to 6.
Okay.
Roughly, give or take. It's going to vary between people.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get the like Wisconsin lingo down.
Yeah, so if you're going to go have a beer with the boys kind of thing, you're having at least 2 to 3 minimum.
Right.
That's what a beer is in Wisconsin. So
Sure.
we've had a beer today. But no, that was fun. It was nice talking to some people, and very, very nice people that we talked to. 2 couples we actually talked to, but the one mostly about the podcast. They were very interested, so it was kind of cool. So that was nice. But yeah, so what do you got for me today?
Well, I do have a question, and it just came up out of the blue because I'm great like that.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay, so do you recall, like when you were growing up, any particular blizzard? Do you remember like a massive blizzard? Do you remember like having a snow day, staying home, playing in the snow, or trying to drive in it? Or do you remember anything like that?
There was this one particular snow day that I do recall. It wasn't so much a blizzard necessarily, but it happened in May.
Oh.
I believe it was, if I remember right, May 9th, 1991, I want to say.
That's very specific. You weirdo.
So I remember my brothers waking me up that morning saying, "Hey, get up. We don't have to go to school today." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Why am I getting up then?
Well, it's May. Yes, I got to go to school. And they're like, "No, dude, look outside. It snowed." So I look outside and sure as shit, boatload of snow. It's like super heavy, wet snow. So
like the kind you can't move with a snowblower because it's too wet.
it gums it up, basically. Yeah. So we're, my dad stayed home. My mom was a teacher, so she was home. And then my 2 brothers, the 3 of us. So we were out shoveling, and the house I grew up at had a pretty steep driveway, and it had a section, like a turnaround, if you will.
A roundabout?
No, it wasn't a roundabout.
Cul-de-sac?
No, we lived on a cul-de-sac. But it had basically there was like an island of woods driveway around it, but then it had another part that went up to our garage.
Interesting.
So like my brother would park his car there eventually, and so would I when we got older to have cars. Anyways, in this middle section, there was some giant trees, and my dad and I were shoveling on this particular part of the turnaround, and he just turned to me and goes, "Why don't we take a break? Why don't you go inside, just take a break a little bit, and we'll come back out and finish?" Because it was super heavy, wet snow.
Yeah. And how old are you?
I was about 12.
Okay.
Roughly, if I'm remembering the right year. I could be off on the year, but
yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I want to say it was 91. So I'm like, all right. Being a kid, I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's take a break. Literally minutes after I walked away from where I was standing, this giant fucking limb fell exactly where I was standing. It would have killed me.
Oh my.
So, because again, the snow was so heavy.
Yeah, it just broke the limb.
Yeah. And it was still early enough in the year. It might have been a dead tree, I don't recall. But if I would have stayed there shoveling where I was, I would be dead.
Yeah.
So,
well,
thanks, Dad.
Thank you for not dying. Or otherwise this podcast would not exist.
It's my pleasure for not dying.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I really needed this podcast.
Wow.
Okay, so I remember 2.
Right.
Which is not many considering we're in the Midwest.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I remember
More,
other ones, but
yes.
that one that stands out in my brain. So.
Well, I really don't have a story like that. I remember like I was probably 10-ish, give or take, 5 years. I don't know. I was Dorothy Gale for Halloween, and it was those like plastic masks.
Oh, I remember those.
Yes, and like
with the cutout eyes.
Yes,
and all
the vinyl outfits.
Yep.
Yes,
super uncomfortable. Like the mask would cut into your face, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember those.
So Halloween that year was delayed because of a snowstorm, and I just remember like 2 or 3 days later going out with that costume, with a giant coat on,
yeah,
and all you could see was this plastic mask.
Yeah.
The other one I remember is when I was in college, I was living with 4 other girls in a house that my parents bought for me, and we all like rented it out to them.
Right.
And it was a lovely experience. Would probably never do it again. But just the fact that I was able to have a house, and like that was amazing for someone my age. But stupidly, we all had a snow day. Stupidly, me and one other person were like, let's go to Walmart. That was not a good idea.
No, I'm not surprised at that.
We only went to Walmart because we had nothing else to do. It was really, really stupid. So, in essence, I don't have a cool story because I don't have that kind of memory.
You know, what's funny is that you went as Dorothy Gale that one time.
Yes.
My mom made, she was a very crafty person. She made, and it was a hand-me-down. So my brothers also have worn this before me, but I went as Scarecrow. Not from The Wizard of Oz, but
just a scarecrow.
Just a scarecrow. So
yeah.
All we need now is Tin Man and the lion, and we're good.
I was Tin Man for Halloween when I worked at a independent living facility.
Yeah.
All the staff in the kitchen, because I worked in the kitchen, we all went as characters of Wizard of Oz. And I was the Tin Man. I purposefully ruined a pair of pants by spray painting them silver.
Sure.
And then I got like a party hat that I spray painted.
You should have just got a funnel for like oil, because that's kind of what he had.
I guess I went cheaper than that.
Oh, apparently.
But yeah, so we're actually going to talk about it. Kind of a gale. I mean, part of a gale. We're going to talk. Do you know what a gale is?
Yeah.
High winds.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're actually going to talk about a blizzard today.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if the question hadn't gotten you there.
I mean, I was there, but I'm glad you had to like interject with that.
Yes. So in the mid to late 19th century, there was a colossal wave of immigration to the United States from Europe.
Okay.
So we're talking about 16.5 million people.
That's a lot.
Seeking a new life.
Sure.
They were driven by the promise of land and freedom and just a whole new life, essentially.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of like push-pull factors that kind of came with this. So some of the push factors were like Europe had widespread poverty, unemployment. There was an agricultural crisis like the Irish potato famine.
Yep.
A lot fled oppressive regimes.
Or as I try to say at one time, regimes. I've read it phonetically. My bad.
There was a lot of like densely populated nations, and there was just limited opportunities for advancement.
Right.
So people were kind of seeking refuge. So some of the pull factors were the American dream.
Yeah, I mean, that's really still why a lot of people try to come here today.
It's a land of opportunity. Yeah. There's people who were willing to work hard for prosperity. And then there was this industrial boom in America that people were drawn to. There was the promise of religious tolerance for those seeking to escape persecution, essentially, for their religion. And then there was the Homestead Act of 1862. Mm-hmm. So the majority of immigrants initially settled in the East Coast cities like New York and Boston and Philadelphia.
That's typically where they landed, if you will.
Yes. But many from particularly like Germans and Scandinavians, they headed west. There was a vast.
Wisconsin has a lot of German.
Yes.
Immigrants, if you will, back when it was established or whatever.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
There was a vast grassland frontier stretching from the Mississippi River to the Missouri River. And the Homestead Act was a way for them to have a job, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about a particular book.
Yeah. Okay.
It is by David Laskin, and it is called The Children's Blizzard.
The Children's Blizzard. Mm-hmm. So it just was blizzarding children? Like they were coming down?
So I'm going to explain the Homestead Act real quick by a quote from this book. The Homestead Act was signed by law by Abraham Lincoln in 1862, and it was the first colorblind, sex-blind, equal opportunity piece of legislature on the American books.
Okay.
White, black, male, female, foreign born, or native born, it made no difference.
Sure.
As long as you were 21 or older and could muster $18 for the filing fee
Wow.
and lived on the land and farmed it for 5 years, 160 acres was yours.
Which is a lot of land.
That is a lot. So like, let's pack up, kids. We're going to America. Like, how big of a decision is that? Can you imagine like packing up Sarah
life?
and your 2 kids and just hiking over to Europe because you get 160 acres for $18?
But the funny thing is, $18 back then was hard for people to come up with.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, that was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, if I had to guess, it was probably around $600 ish. Honestly, not that bad.
If you think of it in that regards, but look how much you made a day though back then.
Agreed.
You know, most people make $8 and not. Yeah, you like it? You can talk about it.
Yeah, I just had a sip of the Leinenkugel Barrelman Ale again. It is really good. I'm still partial to my Modelo, but
you don't have to cut everything down because you like Modelo more. Okay, you can like it. We obviously.
I just want Modelo to listen. Give me beer.
Constellation Brands, please reach out to us. That'd be great.
So we've got a couple of winters before the children's blizzard.
Okay.
So the snow winter.
The snow winter.
I know it's
a very creative name.
It's so unique.
I would never guess they would have had snow in a winter.
It was the winter of 1888 to 1881. So like we'll say like November to April.
Can you fix that?
1880 to 1881.
You said 1888 to 1881.
Pardon me, 1880 to 1881.
That makes more sense.
It was referred to as the snow winter, the hard winter, the long winter, and it was a period of exceptionally severe weather in the western and midwestern United States.
Okay.
There was extreme, prolonged cold and heavy snowfall, and this list led to massive snowdrifts and blizzards.
Oh, dear.
And this winter is known for the increased use of the term blizzard in popular lexicon.
Oh, really?
So this is kind of when blizzard became normal.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
So, and then the abrupt spring led to widespread flooding along the Mississippi and Missouri rivers.
Well, if there was that much snow, that makes sense.
Obviously compounded additional hardships during that winter.
That makes sense.
And then we have the winter of blue snow, and that was from 1886 to 1887.
Why was it blue snow?
I will let you know. Temperatures plummeted to dangerous low levels, resulting in widespread freezing. The winter is infamous for the Great Die-Up, D-I-E, Die-Up.
Okay.
It was a catastrophic loss of livestock.
Oh, sure. I suppose
Yes.
that makes sense.
The combination of harsh weather and previous drought conditions led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of animals.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's noted that the preceding summer was very dry and that there were many prairie fires.
Oh.
So it's theorized that the smoke and ash from these fires contributed to the blue tint that was reported in the snow.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I can't make sense of
I don't
that
get the
correlation.
coloring, but I guess I can see how that could affect it, though.
Yeah, I could understand how it could affect. I can't understand
why that
correlate. Yeah, that correlation? Why isn't it gray?
Like charcoaly or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get.
Or maybe it's more blue in the sun. I guess that could be.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Penny, what do you think?
So now we're going to head into the children's blizzard. Okay, so that's going to be the winter of 1887.
Okay.
So like November-ish until 1888. So it's a blizzard that was in the Dakota Territory. So it was before North and South Dakota became states,
right?
Which were in approximately 1889. So just like a year earlier.
Oh, so now
it was still considered a territory.
I didn't realize that's when they became states.
And then Missouri was affected, and just for continuity's sake, Missouri became a state in 1821.
Oh, wow.
And it affected Nebraska as well. And that was a state in 1867.
That's where you're from.
I am from Nebraska. And Faja and Maja, mother, father.
I got it.
You will recognize quite a few of these.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the Dakotas?
I have been to South Dakota a couple of times.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I actually think South Dakota is very underrated with a lot of people.
It's so beautiful.
I've never been to North.
I haven't either.
I've heard not to, but either way. Sorry for, all the people in North Dakota, but I've been to South Dakota actually a number of times, and there's a lot of nice places in there.
There's a lot of great places, touristy, but then like the Black Hills are so beautiful.
The Badlands and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, technically, Devil's Tower is in Wyoming, but it's on the border.
It is.
More
I have
or
been
less,
there as well.
Which is, I love Devil's Tower, but then we went to Devil's Tower, then into South Dakota. It's really quite nice area. We really like it. So,
during COVID year, my family was supposed to go to Deadwood and all those like Custer State Park and the Badlands and all that year, and sadly we had to put it off so we could stay safe, and we haven't been able to go back, but it's on the list.
Sarah's and my honeymoon was at Custer State Park. We stayed in the Badlands, and we went to Mount Rushmore and Deadwood on my birthday. So
I think honeymoons in the continental U.S., if that's where you're from, is underrated. Most people are like, let's go to Hawaii, let's go to Europe, let's go
Italy
to
or something,
Jamaica. Yeah. Like, no offense to any of those, because I went to the Cayman Islands for my my first marriage. My second marriage with Nathan, we went to Mackinac Island
which is great
in Michigan.
Yeah,
fucking loved it.
The problem is people want to try and do something more exotic.
Yeah.
But there's so many cool places.
There's so many cool places.
The United States is huge.
Yeah, you just have to have an open mind. Yeah. And anyway.
And who's going to be like, let's go to South Dakota for our honeymoon? But it was fucking awesome.
I think my parents went to Wisconsin for their honeymoon.
Did they really?
Yeah, they had friends that lived somewhere in Wisconsin, and they visited them for a little bit.
That's cool, though.
Yeah. I
mean, I like Wisconsin.
So folks that had migrated were just trying to get on their feet.
Right.
So imagine 2 solid months of below zero weather, just relentless.
No, that sucks.
The storms out west started early in November of 87.
Okay.
And it just kept getting worse and worse, piling up snow and dropping the temperatures week after week. And it was unusually rigorous with blocked railroads and impassable roads. And, everything is communicated through these railroads and newspapers, and none of this could continue essentially with these blizzards happening.
Right.
So a ton of newcomers were not ready for this level of severity.
Sure.
So even people who had been part of this prairie for a long time were caught off guard with this type of weather.
Okay.
So in December, early January, we're talking temperatures where the mercury in the thermometers at the time were frozen solid.
That is fucking cold.
We're talking around negative 46 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that's not the wind chill. That's the temperature.
That's just the temperature.
Do you have what the wind chills were?
No.
Okay. I didn't think so, but damn. Could you imagine?
Later I do. Well, not really wind chill, but more miles per hour.
Oh, dear.
Damn.
It
stung your lungs. It cracked your lips. It made your eyes water.
I bet.
But then in January, it got worse. A record-breaking cold snap happened, lasting almost 2 weeks. And just before the blizzard that I'm going to talk about, capital letters, the blizzard, people started seeing sundogs in the sky. And I just told you today what a sundog was in preparation of our story tonight.
Well, it's funny because
we were talking about
that couple, right? That wasn't it that who we were talking about? Or no, we were talking to that other person.
We were talking to somebody today about sundogs. Do you remember that picture that I showed you? Can you explain that real quick? What a sundog is?
It basically had the sun in the middle, but then it had almost like, for lack of a better way to say it, a reflection on each side of a partial sun, if you will.
Yes, it looked like three bright lights in a row and like almost an orb around it.
Right.
But it's actually kind of known as an omen, a bad sign. Extreme cold is on its way, essentially.
I've never heard that before.
I've never even seen a sundog, nor heard what a sundog was.
I honestly don't think I have. I mean, I don't recall anything like that. And if I've seen it, it didn't, I don't know.
Register?
Basically.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't have known that's a sundog.
Also, where the fuck did they come up with sundog? Anyway.
I mean.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah. It's weird because why is it a sundog? Because it didn't look like a dog. I mean.
Neither are hot dogs, so.
Yeah. That is odd that but I don't know. Things are called weird things, I guess. Anyways.
So imagine this. January 12th, 1888.
Okay.
After weeks of brutal cold.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's a spring day.
In January?
January 12th, yes.
That's wild.
It hit 32 degrees Fahrenheit.
That had to feel like 70 compared to what they were going.
It was 20 below.
Yeah, that is wild.
From 20 below to 32 degrees.
Is there a reason for the temperature change?
Yes.
Okay.
The sun was bright, shining. There was a nice soft breeze. People went out to care for their livestock because they're like, hey, we're doing our job as farmers.
What we can.
But now we can do more. So let's go out and take care of our livestock. We'll do our chores. Finally enjoying a break in this weather. The kids are finally able to go to school. They hadn't been because of how awful the weather was.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
So they all stayed home. So to that day, January 12th, they're like, oh my God, we can go to school. That's amazing. Of course, they all walked. They all walked to school.
Yep.
But there was something off.
What was it?
The air felt strange.
Like heavy?
The sky was a weird color.
Okay.
There was a particular woman named Maria Albrecht who had this like uneasing feeling, a sense that something wasn't right.
Sure.
And despite the beautiful weather, Maria wanted to keep her two kids. Actually, she had a couple kids, but these two particular home from school.
She's like, fuck the rest. I just want these two.
No. They were all too young for school.
Oh, I gotcha.
But two of her boys were school age, and she's like, I don't want you to go to school.
Home.
Yes.
Okay.
She had a fight with her husband about it.
Oh, because he's probably like, send them to school. They need to learn.
He thought that she was being silly.
Well,
it was a warm day. What could go wrong?
Well, I'm guessing a lot of things could have went wrong.
Somehow she knew. Peter, her son, one of the school-age children, remembers spending the whole morning staring out the window, missing his older brother who did go to school.
Oh, so one of them did go?
One of her kids decided to go to school. The other school-age boy and then all the younger kids decided to stay home.
So I'm guessing we learn what happens to the older boy?
Eventually.
Okay.
So what happened was, as far as the weather, there was warm, moist air. Okay, so the Great Plains experienced like an unseasonably
there it is.
warm temperatures. This warmth was due to moisture-heavy airflow coming from the Gulf of Mexico. So this front was coming up from the Gulf of Mexico that was warm and heavy with moisture.
Sure.
And then coming from Canada was
a
massive, intensely cold air mass, surging southward. And then this Arctic front brought with it extremely low temperatures.
Yep.
So the collision of air pressures abrupted this air, and it became like a frigid Arctic air with the warm, moist air created the perfect conditions for a very powerful blizzard.
Okay.
So this clash of winter systems resulted in rapid and drastic temperature drops.
Sure.
In some places falling dozens of degrees in a very short of time. We're talking 18 minutes.
Oh my God.
18 minutes. High velocity winds up to 40 miles per hour.
Oh dear. Was the warm day that got up to 32, was that because of the air coming up from the Gulf? And then, so there was like maybe a day reprieve, and then the air from Canada basically met up and said, fuck fuck you.
It was the same day.
Oh, this all happened in the
This
same.
all happened
well,
in the
I guess
same
that would
day.
make sense if the kid went to school.
The day before was negative 40.
Yeah, and this was 32.
And this, in the morning of January 12th, it was 32 degrees.
And then later in the afternoon?
Like 10:30 to noon. We're talking 40 miles an hour. We're talking heavy, but super thin, super thin blowing snow.
So basically
creating whiteout conditions.
Someone flipped a switch from this nice 32 degree weather and like, nope, we're going back to winter.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
So
18 minutes?
And in some cases, yes, it was that quick. So I'm going to quote from the book here. Quote, one of the many tragedies of that day was the failure of the weather forecasters.
Well, I mean, they fail today and they have so much more instruments and technology. What are the people in 1888? What you said, right? Mm-hmm. You got the right year. What are they going to do? I mean, seriously.
Well, there was the failure of the weather forecasters, a failure compounded by faulty science, primitive technology, human error, narrow-mindedness, and sheer ignorance.
You gotta love that sheer ignorance but how would they have known though?
So they did have a type of weather forecasting. So it was the Army Signal Corps was handling it. They were collecting data. They were making forecasts, but getting that information out to the people was a completely different story.
Well, yeah. It's not like they could go, hey, check the internet for our update. I mean, obviously you have newspapers and stuff, but even that shit took days.
Yes, exactly. So the newspapers and telegraphs were the main ways in which that word would get out. But the planes, they were notoriously tricky to predict. I mean, we're in Wisconsin. It's tricky to predict today.
Right.
And during blizzards, they did not have telegraphs.
No.
Everything was shut down.
Sure.
Okay. So they were doing their best, but they were super limited by the tech and the communication of the times.
Okay.
We're going to talk about two firsthand accounts of this blizzard.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We're going to talk about Walter Allen of the Dakota Territory, who is 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And we are going to talk about Etta Shattuck. Etta Shattuck, like Etta James? What's the singer?
Oh, shit.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Etta Shattuck, who's about 19 years old, okay? Okay, so we're going to talk about Walter Allen now.
Yeah.
He is from the Dakota Territory. He's 8 years old.
Yep.
Yes, so he had a very special job in school.
Oh.
He was so excited to go because he hadn't been in a couple weeks because of the weather.
Because of how cold it was, yeah.
Each row of desks was under the supervision of a row monitor.
And was he that row monitor?
Yes.
Row monitor?
They were in charge of coats and shoes for all the children in that row.
And he took great pride in his role.
He really did.
Okay.
His task was to jump up before the children at recess or the end of the day and gather everyone's coats and gear and pass them out to the appropriate child. He has to know what went where and who.
Who had what and saw it, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So in his grade school, there was approximately 100 children and in this particular and about 4 classrooms.
I mean, that's pretty good for 1888, really good. Honestly.
So I'm going to quote the book here. Quote, the vestibule of the school where the children hung their wraps and stowed their wet shoes was less jammed than usual since the weather was so mild. Some kids had dispensed with cloaks and overcoats altogether. Their wool stockings and homemade woolsey and calico dresses and petticoats or thick skirts and trousers would have been warm enough on such a mild.
That was amazing. I'm so keeping that in there.
Warm enough on such a mild morning.
Okay.
One girl remembered slipping out of the house in a short cape made from the bottom of an outgrown coat before her mother spotted her and insisted on a heavier coat.
Nice.
So Walter had a prized possession in his desk.
What would that be?
A delicate little perfume bottle.
Why?
I'm imagining like an atomizer, with a little squirt.
Yeah, like the little pouch, if you will.
Yep,
kind
that's
of thing.
called an atomizer.
I never knew that. Okay.
So to clean their chalk slates, they would have an erasing rag, and most kids use like corked bottles of water to scrub it clean with that rag.
Okay.
But Walter had a perfume bottle that he cherished. It was pretty to look at, but he actually loved it because the water came out in such little amounts that it was just perfect for his slate.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it was perfect.
That's cute.
He loved it.
Nice.
Okay. Miss Etta Shattuck, age 19.
Oh, that's the 19-year-old. Yep.
She lived with her parents near Seward, Nebraska, which is near Lincoln.
Okay.
A fun fact, my parents have a home there.
Fun fact.
In Seward. Mm-hmm. Second fun fact, Etta's father, Ben, was a prisoner at Belle Isle in the Civil War.
Oh.
Do you recall?
I do.
Belle Isle was the place of a lot of POWs that got transferred to Andersonville.
Yeah.
Where we have an episode on Andersonville.
We sure do. That was the one Sarah suggested. Yep.
So he was potentially exchanged with other Confederate soldiers, so he never actually went to Andersonville, but he was at Belle Isle as a POW.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's funny.
So Ben couldn't quite make it as a farmer in Seward. So by 1886, they moved to Atkinson, Nebraska, which is about 183 miles or about 3 hours by car northwest of Seward.
Okay.
Again, Ben couldn't make it as a farmer there.
Poor guy.
His daughter, Etta, at 19, earned $15 a month.
Wow.
That's approximately $836 a month today.
Oh, wow.
And she was a school teacher. And she was the sole breadwinner for her parents and 4 other siblings.
She was 19 and a school teacher?
Mm-hmm. There were many, many school teachers who were nearly the same age as some of the oldest school kids.
Yeah, I say that's wild because they barely got through it themselves and now they're teaching other kids. But, had to start somewhere, I guess. So.
Right. But her $25 a month wasn't quite enough. And after 2 years, everyone but Etta moved back to Seward.
Okay.
She stayed with a host family close enough to the school to walk there daily just to kind of finish out the school year.
Sure.
On January 10th, with less and less children in attendance because of the weather, she decided to close the school and end the school term. It would reopen in the spring, but she wouldn't be there. She wanted to return to Seward to be with her family.
Sure, makes sense.
But before she could leave, she needed to be paid. And there would need to be a signed order by the school district superintendent.
Okay.
Which would then go to the district treasurer, and then she could get her money.
So basically that's how they figure out.
Yes.
Sure.
So January 12th, she'd walk to the superintendent's house. Then on the 13th, she'd board a train to Seward. That was her plan.
That was the plan. But this all happened on the 12th, right?
Yes. So at 10:30 a.m. on the 12th, Walter, 8-year-old Walter's classroom, they had been reciting a passage in their books, and they suddenly stopped. For a fleeting moment, maybe like a minute, everything went eerily silent.
Okay.
Then the sky blackened.
Wild.
A huge dark cloud that had been lurking on the horizon had rolled in.
Okay.
The wind shifted, whipping around from the west, and it hit with such force that it was actually dangerous to be outside.
Oh, really?
The air was thick with snow, like someone had dumped a bag of flour.
That's wild. I mean, that's pretty thick.
And the wind kept changing direction, swirling from northeast to northwest, building into a full-blown gale. See how I'm bringing it back around.
That was amazing. I never thought you'd get there.
I know. You're welcome.
Look at you. You did.
Within 3 minutes, it was howling at 40 miles an hour.
That's wild. Jesus.
Within 5 minutes, you couldn't see 15 feet in front of you.
That's not very far.
No.
Wow. Okay. Could you imagine? I know the time frame we're talking about. Just think if this was like when cars were around. If you were driving in that,
pretty sure I would be pulled over.
If you didn't, you're dumb because you'd be fucked.
Yes.
That would have been terrible. So obviously Silver lining? I don't know.
So the windows and doors rattled as the wall of shattered crystals slammed into the school. That's how they described it in this book. Shattered crystals slammed into the school.
Wow.
The teachers announced that the children were to go home. School was absolutely dismissed for the day.
So how in your right mind can you send kids home?
Because it's not that bad yet.
I get that, but Jesus fuck.
Young Walter, as the row monitor, he was to get the children's wraps and hand them out as quickly as possible.
Sure.
This took 10 to 15 minutes.
Right, which
doesn't
doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it's obviously getting worse.
It was enough time that the storm had gotten so much worse, and they literally could not go outside.
And please tell me they didn't.
No.
Jesus Christ.
Etta, the 19-year-old,
yes,
had been walking to get her payment when the storm hit.
Oh, boy.
So many firsthand accounts mentioned that the onset of the storm was preceded by a loud roar.
I have to say something real quick. The fact that we're getting firsthand accounts at least tells me something.
Yes.
Okay.
And no.
Oh, shit.
It was preceded by a loud roar like an approaching train.
Oh, boy.
Like
really?
It was audible, the storm coming in.
Right.
The sound was the wind smashing the snow into powder.
Oh, really?
It was compared to putting snow and ice into a grinder. The turbulence pulverized the snow into talcum powder.
Wow.
Super, super, super fucking thin snow.
Right.
The father of the family that she was boarding at called her from his porch.
I say, like, on the phone, I'm like, they didn't have phones back then.
No, he would not dare to go after her. He had a family to look after. He didn't go after his board.
I mean, can you blame him? He had his family. She was just there out of
temporarily.
Their kindness to let her live there.
She was literally leaving the next day.
Right. Well, she was supposed to on the 13th. Take the train to Seward?
Seward, yes.
Yeah.
So she was not that far away from the house, but she couldn't hear him over the wind.
Right. Makes sense.
So there was a 40-acre pasture around the house. And
That's a big pasture.
It was fenced in, which was rare during this time. There wasn't a lot of fences, but this particular field was fenced in.
Okay.
And she hadn't crossed it yet.
Right.
Okay. So the snow felt like frozen sand against the eyelids, nostrils, and lips. You couldn't face into the wind or open your eyes for even a second.
Right.
The wind was blowing so hard that if you fell, you didn't know if you could get up again.
Jesus.
So Etta found the fence.
Okay.
She knew if she could just follow it all the way around, it didn't matter which way she would go, she would end up at the house.
She would get there, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So she walked and walked and walked, and she never saw it.
How?
Because it was that dense outside.
But I thought the fence would get you there.
She didn't get there. Somehow she did not get there. So what did she do? She crawled under the fence. And just like that, when she turned around, the fence was gone.
Where'd it go?
It disappeared in the snow.
Okay.
So literally, they cannot see in front of themselves.
Right. No, that had to be wild.
So Etta drifted with the force of the wind. And like a miracle from the fucking heavens, she ran into a haystack.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So with no pitchfork or the basic use of her hands, because they were like fucking so cold.
I'm sure. I would hope she had gloves on, but who knows back then. So
it was a warm day. She didn't.
Why would you? Yeah. Because how the day started, why would you have gloves on?
So she burrowed in as far as she could, which wasn't much. Her legs were still exposed to the knife-biting elements of the blizzard.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
It's kind of like Luke going in the Tauntaun.
Yes.
But more hay. Do you know what the inside temperature of a Tauntaun is?
No.
Lukewarm.
You butthead. You were such a butthead. Jesus.
Am I wrong?
I'm not going to answer that.
Because you know I'm not. But you want me to be?
I'm not going to answer that. The kids in Walter's schoolhouse.
Yes. 8-year-old Walter.
hadn't noticed
Okay.
that there were drays approaching.
There were what?
Drays. They are a strong, low cart or wagon,
Okay.
typically without sides, that's used for hauling heavy loads by horse.
Oh, okay.
So a couple of drays were like passing by this school. So the wood of the drays were already frozen solid as a rock.
Sure.
The children loaded into the drays, and Walter, responsible as he is, waited until his entire row was accounted for.
Aw, Walter.
Walter was one of the last to board.
Sure.
The teachers did a head count. All were there, all were accounted for, and off they went.
Did they accidentally count someone twice?
No.
I feel like that's where that's headed.
Within 10 yards,
Oh, dear. 30 feet.
Walter had a sad realization.
What? He left his perfume bottle?
He left his perfume bottle in the classroom.
He can get it later, dude.
He knew what the cold did to liquid in a glass bottle.
I get that, but your life's more important.
He knew that the glass, as fragile as it was,
It
would break.
crack and break, yeah.
Without even a thought, he jumped off.
Oh, Walter.
And he trudged back to the schoolhouse. Now, the drays were moving super slow when he dropped off, so he's like, I can go in, grab it, come back out, and just jump right back on the dray.
Yeah, but with the state of the storm, you're not going to see that.
They were gone.
Yeah.
They were not visible.
And they could have been 20 feet ahead of him.
Yes, and it wasn't visible.
Right. So, oh, dear.
So out of sight in the whiteout, out of earshot in the wind, snow clogged his nostrils,
Right.
coated his eyelashes. Snow blew down the neck of his coat
Oh, boy.
and up his sleeves.
Yep.
The air was so full of powdered ice crystals, and it was moving so fast that Walter had trouble filling his lungs.
Right.
The exposed skin of his face and neck spread through his body and brain.
Oh, Jesus.
Instead of turning around and taking shelter in the schoolhouse, he decided to set out for home, though he could barely see or breathe.
Right. Good Lord. Did they find him like frozen in a pose of walking or something?
So,
Good Lord.
the whiteout was horrendous, but it was the assault on their eyes
Sure.
that was really rough.
I bet.
The tiny, vicious pellets of snow from the wind were like shards of glass tearing into his vision.
God damn. Yeah.
He would tear up, and mixing with the snow, it would form an icy crust.
Yeah, that had to be terrible.
It sealed his eyelids shut.
Oh, boy.
He tried to like brush it away, but it ended up like burning his eyes.
Yeah.
And then they were super inflamed. They were probably creating like little micro tears in his eyes.
God.
And so his sight started blurring. The pain was super intense.
Yeah.
So he just left the frozen crust over his eyes.
Jesus Christ, that had to suck.
He couldn't see. He couldn't force his eyes open without ripping the delicate skin around it.
Wow. Okay.
And then his face began to vanish. It was encased in a mask of ice, leaving only the littlest openings for his nostrils and mouth.
Is the only reason why that, because obviously he's trying to breathe in and out, how am I trying to ask this? Obviously there's some warmer air coming from those spots. Is that the only reason why that those were open compared to the rest of his face?
There's air movement.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even just warmer, but just movement.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
So the cold kept beneath his clothing, turning it into a frozen armor,
Ugh,
like a rigid cage around
Sure.
his little body.
I bet.
And it happened so quickly and horrifying. There was just a swift descent into this this oblivion.
Ugh.
There was a howling wind. It filled his ears, the frozen needles and snow slicing his skin. So fucking painful. He started stumbling. He was lost, disoriented, and we don't know how long he had.
Right.
Minutes before the wind claimed him or his frozen limbs gave away. Exhaustion ended up pulling him under.
Sure.
Walter stumbled to the ground, but he noticed down there that the snow was a little bit softer. The wind was not as vicious, so he curled up in the snow.
Oh, wow.
Etta,
Yeah.
in her haystack,
Yeah.
her shelter became a frozen prison overnight.
Oh, I bet.
It was snow-packed solid, essentially trapping her in there.
Right.
Her core stayed a little bit warm, which I'll kind of tell you a little bit about blood flow.
Sure.
But her core stayed a little bit warmer, but her legs were frozen, just useless.
And because those were hanging out
Those
still,
were
right?
hanging out.
Yeah.
She drifted in and out of consciousness. There would be like little refugee mice in there that would like nibble at her wrists.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking for anything. So.
Yeah. And she was very religious, so she prayed. She tried to sing hymns as best as she could, and just believing that God would send her some kind of help.
Right. Wow.
So your body temperature is pretty steady 98.6 degrees.
That's the average, yeah.
Average.
Yep.
It begins to slow.
Mine's always lower.
So is Nathan's.
Yeah?
Yeah. So the forces of this blizzard, there's radiation, there's conduction, there's evaporation, and there's convection.
Okay.
And somehow they all steal your heat.
Oh, okay.
So your uncovered head radiates warm into the icy air. Mm-hmm. Your damp clothes, soaked and heavy, become a freezing blanket.
Well, like you said, like for Walter, it came like an armor, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The wind strips away the thin layer of warmth clinging to your skin, replacing it with this bitter, agonizing cold.
Yep.
In essence, you're being swept away in a river of freezing air,
Oh,
peeling away your body heat layer by layer.
Okay.
The wind chill intensifies the assault essentially on your body at 5 degrees below zero, and then plunging to 40 below.
Wow.
Your exposed flesh threatens to turn to ice in just minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine it only takes literally minutes.
Minutes.
And that seems long at that point. Because, good Lord.
And then there's shivering.
Oh,
It's a desperate attempt at keeping warm.
Yeah, that's why you shiver, is to try and generate heat in your body. And you can't fight it when it's those conditions.
And shivering also burns through additional energy.
Correct, because it's your body trying to do anything
Conserve heat
to help you, but you're also using that energy, which then weakens you. So it's a double-edged sword kind of thing.
It is.
Yeah.
So the cold seeps into your bones.
Oof.
Your skin slowly surrenders to the cold, becoming stiff, unresponsive, and once the shivering stops, your body gives up, shutting down pretty quickly.
Right.
So your blood thickens.
Oh, wow.
And your heart weakens.
Sure.
Barely pumping. Okay. So there's less oxygen, there's more lactic acid, and then there's a failing heart.
Right.
And your body, trying to survive, pulls blood from your skin to your core. So I learned this in aesthetic school.
Yeah.
It's called retrostasis.
Okay.
I did not do additional
A deep
research
dive.
on this.
Yep.
This is just memory, which that's
So
amazing.
Why don't we just move on?
So essentially, you've got blood throughout your body, and as soon as you put like something cold on your body, that blood rushes away to protect the inside core.
Sure.
And then once it realizes that there's not a threat, your blood comes back, essentially warming up the skin.
Gotcha.
So the blood pulls from your skin to your core, it actually kind of makes you urinate a little bit more uncontrollably, and it also dehydrates you by doing that.
That's weird.
Your brain is starved of oxygen, and that starts to fail.
Okay.
You lose your touch with reality.
Oh,
You
shit.
hallucinate. You become delirious.
So can I ask something real quick? Mm-hmm. What if you never were in touch with reality? What do you lose then?
So eventually,
Yeah.
as cold as it is, you start to feel warm.
Isn't that wild that your body does that?
It's almost burning.
Right.
You start to remove your clothes.
Yeah, because this has happened to many people over
It's called paradoxical undressing.
Oh, it's actually got a name. Okay.
It's a desperate delusion.
Right.
So you don't feel cold anymore. You're lost in this world where your brain is dying. You're no longer trapped in your body. You just watch it freeze.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That's just amazing that like your brain does that to you.
Yeah.
In a way. It's just crazy.
So the Drays rode through Main Street and dropped off the kids of Walter's schoolhouse one by one to their parents.
Except for Walter.
But Walter Allen's parents
We're waiting.
didn't see Walter.
Well, because he wasn't there.
His father and his brother Will set off on another dray.
Oh dear.
So the drivers of the drays were like, okay, we're gonna like save our horses. We're gonna pack up. We're gonna go home. And they're like, well, there's a kid missing. They're like, God damn it.
Son of a bitch.
So these drays.
That's a tough choice because they obviously are doing their thing and they have their things to protect.
Family.
They have family. They have their horses, which is, in essence, part of their family and or livelihood. Job, whatever.
Absolutely.
But yet now you have this 8-year-old. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Kill the horses or look for, potentially kill the horses while we look for this child.
Yeah.
Or save the horses.
Yeah.
It's, obviously most people go with human life over the animals, which I understand, but also kind of sad. But it's like, you can't just leave this boy out there.
Yeah.
It's really tough. So
his father and brother Will set off on another dray, retracing their tracks.
Yeah.
They did end up back at the schoolhouse, but there was no one inside, no one outside, no visible tracks, no Walter.
Well, which is understandable because of the conditions would have covered tracks and whatnot, right?
Oh, yes.
So makes sense.
His father was going to stay behind and keep looking, but the drivers of the dray argued with him about the dangers.
Well, yeah.
And the father agreed, but no one was watching out for his brother Will.
Oh, come on. Okay.
Will was gone.
Where did Will go?
Will went looking for Walter.
Well, yeah, but where did he go?
So Will also found that the visibility was better right next to the ground.
Sure.
And
so he started crawling?
Yes, and with whatever luck that he had in the world, he found Walter's body.
How the fuck? That's amazing.
Luck.
100% luck. Holy shit.
Walter was unconscious but breathing.
Oh, he was still alive.
He was still alive.
Okay.
His limbs were limp, which meant they weren't frozen yet.
Which is impressive.
Will picked Walter up and walked towards Main Street. Despite his house being right there, right next door, aka like closer to where the boys were.
Yeah.
Was their father's law office.
Oh.
And Will was like, I can't he's carrying this 8-year-old boy in this awful weather.
He's already probably exhausted from the weather, let alone carrying another human.
So he stumbled inside the law office.
Wow. I mean, smart move.
Yes.
Really. At least shelter, right?
His body gave out, but he mustered enough strength eventually that Will staggered next door to his house, where Will and Walter's parents were just beside themselves.
So wait, his father's law office was next to their house?
Literally next door.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Will was like, I can't make it any further with this child in my hands. I have to just find shelter.
He left Walter in the law office and then he went
home. Yes. Went next door home.
Gotcha.
So,
wow, that's wild.
So Will and his father went back to the law office. And Walter was barely coherent.
Right.
And they ended up, so he couldn't even walk. Walter was delirious. He couldn't walk.
Yep.
Will and his dad dragged him back to the house. Walter's eyes were open, but he was really confused, staring from his dad to Will and back again. He had no idea he'd gotten there from the school.
Why would he, though? He's probably like literally not there.
Yeah. And all he could feel was this like awful stinging on his body. It was like on fire.
Which is the cold.
It was so cold.
Yeah.
And he was shivering so hard he couldn't stop.
Okay.
But what he didn't notice was a little trickle of liquid running down his leg.
Oh, dear. As
he was warming up, his perfume bottle was thawing.
Wow.
And it busted the perfume bottle The glass had shattered and when it was running down his leg, he lost his perfume bottle.
So all of that for nothing. In essence, right?
No.
That's sad because he obviously loved that thing. He cherished it so much. And the whole reason why he put himself in harm's way
was
to save this perfume bottle that he cherished so much. And it was all for naught.
It had frozen and then just busted the little fragile glass.
Yeah, that's sad. Because obviously I have a young son and, you know, maybe he doesn't have anything that he cherishes that much particular yet, but I get like there's things he loves and it's like kids get fixated on things.
Yeah.
Because they just don't know better or whatever you want to say there. But that's sad.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's devastating to him. Because he lost the thing he was trying to save.
Yep.
Because he cherished it so much. So that's sad. Wow.
A man by the name of Daniel Murphy, a local farmer,
Okay.
checked his dwindling hay supply after the blizzard.
And found Etta?
He almost missed the sound.
Oh, shit.
But 3 days
3 days. Holy fuck.
after the storm,
Yeah.
he heard a thin, quiet voice inside a haystack that said, "Is that you, Mr. Murphy?"
Wow. So she knew who it was.
It was Etta Shattuck.
Wow.
Miraculously, she survived 78 hours.
That's wild.
Exposed to the extreme cold.
That's crazy.
Murphy and a hired man that he had carefully dug her out, finding her alive but with severely frostbitten limbs.
I would say she has to be frostbitten because, good Lord.
Murphy thankfully knew the dangers of frostbite and rushed her home, and his mind was getting word out to her family, which was in Seward.
Right. Because
183 miles away.
She was supposed to take the train 2 days prior to the one they found her.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
So after that blizzard, it was like the world held its breath. It wasn't over.
Right.
The air was just dead still. It was still brutally cold.
Right.
And the sky was like this clear but painful blue.
Okay.
There was tiny ice crystals in the sky. They called it diamond dust.
Oh, wow.
Everything was white, just endless white. And we're on the prairie with very little structures, right?
Right, yeah.
Towns were shut down, completely buried.
Okay.
You couldn't see across the street in some places.
Jesus Christ. Could you imagine? Like, that's not that far.
I know. And
that's just wild.
And there was just this awful silence. And the only thing you could see was like smoke rising straight up from chimneys trying to stay warm.
Yeah, I bet burning overtime, really. Just to warm up the houses and whatnot.
Once the sun rose, you could start to reveal kind of what happened.
Okay.
Dead cattle everywhere. They were just frozen solid.
Well, they had nowhere to go. I'm sure some had little shelters and stuff, and I'm trying to blank on the name I'm trying to think of, but yeah.
Barns?
No. If anyone's looking for a podcast partner, I am available. No, like I'm drawing a blank on the term. I don't know what more like a lean. I obviously know what a fucking barn is.
Yeah.
But like a lean-to kind of thing where it's almost got like a slanted roof and 3 sides and an opening. Basically, typically. Even that would have been beneficial in this type of weather. But if you didn't have anything like that, because again, 1888, roam cattle or roam whatever animals you have, and it's like, we'll get you later. No one planned for shit like this.
Right.
So, and a lot of people didn't have the money to build that shit. They just, they only could afford so much, and animals were secondary to their homes and such, whatever. So,
but it wasn't just dead cattle.
No.
They started to notice bodies.
Oh dear.
They would notice like a gray sleeve out of a jacket just above the snow, a boot, a clump of hair, an arm. But those that did survive the night actually died when they tried to walk.
Why?
So the warmth is actually what killed some of the survivors.
How so?
So you think that it would be a good thing, right?
You would think, yeah.
But their bodies had been so cold for so long that when they stood up or got into a warm place, their hearts just gave out.
Because it was just so much on the heart?
It's called rewarming shock.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of that before.
Their bodies just couldn't handle that sudden change.
Okay.
So basically your body goes into like survival mode during the cold.
Yeah, right.
So the core brings all that blood into the center.
Yep.
Everything else is like fucking tough luck.
Yeah, right.
So your limbs are the first ones to go.
Correct, because they also, especially when you bring the blood to the center, if you will, those are the first out.
Yes.
So they're the first to go.
So it clamps down on the blood vessels in your arms and legs and keeps all the warm blood in your center to
Protect your heart.
Protect your organs, right?
Yeah.
So when you get warmed up too fast, especially your arms and legs, all those clamped down vessels suddenly open up and all that cold blood, like an icy tidal wave, rushes back to your heart.
Yeah, for sure.
And that blood pressure tanks and your heart just fails.
Wow, that's wild.
Of course, doctors know about this now.
Sure. But back then they didn't.
They would warm people. They can warm people up carefully for focusing on the core now.
Yeah.
Not just throwing them into like a hot bath. But back then they didn't understand why people were dying after they were rescued.
Right.
It was really dangerous and sad and just a consequence of how cold it fucking was.
That's wild.
So when some of the people left out in the blizzard were found alive, they died trying to walk or being brought inside.
That's crazy. Could you imagine? Because you think it's like, shit, we made it through. Let's go warm up. But you did it too fast. Mm-hmm. And it fucked you more than it helped you. That's just crazy to think that way. Because you would think, we're good.
So my stories about Walter and Etta, those are just two out of many in this book that I read called The Children's Blizzard by David Laskin. Many of the children that he wrote about died once they were being rescued.
That's sad.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
It wasn't until January 17th that Etta's father, Ben, in Seward, received a telegram that his daughter had been found.
That's crazy. I mean, it's amazing. And did she have any lasting injuries?
Yes.
Okay.
She had severe frostbite.
Right.
So it took Ben 2 days to get there from by train.
From Seward?
Yeah. That's how awful the blizzard was.
Right.
But also back then, I don't know how fast trains were going at the time. But
at least 5 miles per hour.
But it was 183, 86, something like that miles.
Yeah, it's really not that far.
But
in the grand scheme of things,
he had seen gangrene in the Civil War while he was a POW in Belle Isle.
Oh, okay.
And he knew that her legs and feet were just too far gone. Ugh. So Etta was transported in a hay-filled sleigh, covered with canvas, for a 9-mile trip from Atkinson, where she was teaching, to O'Neill, Nebraska, which is where the train depot was. Okay. So Ben walked along beside her.
Sure.
And despite his war-related leg injury and frigid single temperatures, he kept up with her the entire time.
Wow.
The train, unfortunately, was delayed an additional 8 hours by the weather.
Jesus Christ.
And it finally departed on a Tuesday.
Right.
To ensure Etta's comfort, there was a makeshift cot that was arranged in the baggage car for an overnight trip.
Sure.
And Etta endured the painful journey without a single complaint.
Good for Etta.
Probably because she was in and out of consciousness,
that's
for all we know.
More than likely, but we don't know. But more than likely.
So Etta's story dominated public attention through the newspapers, including the Omaha Bee, which was a newspaper back then. So cute, Omaha Bee. There was a lot of...
Is it cute because you like bees?
I do like bees, and I like Omaha.
Yeah.
But there was...
I like Omaha.
There was fundraising efforts through the newspapers to help her heal.
Nice.
Along with other people.
Sure.
The Omaha Bee actually collected a lot of funds for different people of the blizzard.
Oh, wow.
So Etta's doctors remained pretty concerned
Right.
Amputation was the only option.
Ah, boo.
Etta lost both legs below the knee.
That sucks.
News of her ordeal spread, and additional fundraising campaign began highlighting her father's Civil War experience as well.
I'm sure that didn't hurt. Yeah.
She initially appeared to recover, but her condition did deteriorate.
Ah, boo.
The frostbite's damage was more extensive than initially thought, and she required further amputations.
What else did they amputate?
I think they went a little bit higher on her leg.
Gotcha. Okay.
But there was also a severe wound that was developing on her back because of how long she laid in the haystack.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Despite her bravery and cheerfulness, Etta's health declined rapidly on February 2nd.
Oh, so that's less than a month. Wow.
Doctors suspected sepsis, which weakened her even more.
Yeah, that'll do it.
On February 6th, her condition worsened, and surrounded by her family, she passed away at 9 a.m., just shy of her 20th birthday.
God damn, that's so young. That's sad.
Yeah.
Especially because she was a teacher, helping people, and then obviously nothing you could do. I mean, nature. Fuck, how could you plan for that? But that's just sad that she died so young especially because she made it through.
I know.
It's almost like, just take her now, so she doesn't have to do that. But at least she was cheerful and she had a good mindset and tried to make the best of her shitty situation. But it's just sad that ultimately it took her life.
Yeah.
So that's too bad.
Walter forever thanked his brother Will.
Well, how could he not?
For saving his life.
Seriously, I mean, he would be dead if it wasn't for his brother. So
they remained close for the rest of their lives.
Well, that's good.
He graduated from the University of Minnesota.
Walter did?
And then he worked at the same newspaper that his brother Will did.
Oh, nice.
They worked at the same newspaper.
Okay.
And Walter stayed with that publication for 50 years.
Holy shit. Wow. Good for him.
He died in 1973 at the age of 93.
Oh, wow. Look at him go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, could you imagine 85 years earlier? You're like, I almost died. I made it to fucking 93. That's impressive. Wow.
So the blizzard's victims, obviously unimaginable suffering.
Yeah.
They died alone. They died with family. They died searching for family.
Yeah.
They died looking for their cattle. They died looking for their horses and fowls.
For anything. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Some froze to death quickly.
Some slowly.
Others slowly, a night of agony. Their faces torn and bloody from repeated attempts to remove ice.
Oh, jeez.
They were found in various states of despair, like waist deep in drifts, clinging to fences or straw, buried under wagons, or even outstretched on the snow.
Wow.
It's estimated that 1% of those caught in the storm perished.
Only 1%.
With children accounting for 20% of that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Of the fatalities.
Right.
So this is the Midwest blizzard, right?
Yeah.
235 casualties, although some estimate up to 1,000 because like Etta, is she's a number of the fatality, or is she a number of the after effects? Like
it's hard to differentiate that. Yeah.
The total snow accumulation. Guess. Total snow accumulation.
2 inches.
6.
Fuck, that was my first number.
6 inches is all.
I was going to say 6, but then I'm like, I feel like you're tricking me, so I went lower.
Only 6 inches.
That's wild.
The horrendous part of it was the fucking wind.
Right.
And all the drifts.
And the cold, obviously. Because, I mean, you've been in a storm, I've been in a storm where we got much more than 6 inches. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've fucking driven through shit like that.
Right.
Obviously, different times, I get that. But, damn, that's wild. Because in the grand scheme of things, that's not that much. But it's the wind, it's the cold, it's the ice crystals, whatever you were. Ice diamonds, is that what they call them? Was that what it was?
Diamond dust? Was that what
Diamond
it was?
dust. It was something like that. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. But, yeah, it's all that shit that really fucked with the people more than the depth of snow. So... I mean, wow.
Diamond dust.
Diamond dust. That was what it was.
So 2 months later.
Yeah.
There was another blizzard
Motherfucker.
that caused more casualties that was in like the New York Eastern Seaboard type area.
Okay.
So actually there's more on that blizzard than there is on this one, the children's blizzard.
Is it because of
the number of fatalities?
Okay.
Yeah, it was much more severe.
And I'm guessing the location of it is more New Yorkish.
Right.
That's going to help.
But this one was so much about the children.
Right. Yeah. Because what's the name of the book again?
The Children's Blizzard by David Laskin.
Right.
And I will tell you, it is a gripping book. There's a lot of like technical stuff about the weather.
Right.
But there are so many firsthand accounts from journals and loved ones. It is truly a great book.
So when we do episodes, you don't tell me what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But you did tell me you're reading this book, and you're like,
yes,
edge of my seat.
Edge of my seat.
Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, good book. Like, oh, yeah.
So like I did tonight, where I kind of intermixed Etta and Walter instead of doing one full story and then another full story. That's how the book is.
Sure.
Only there's multiple people, several people.
Even more than those two.
Yeah, so it was a little bit more like chronological versus what one person endured from start to finish.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, well, again, we like to focus not on everybody.
Right.
But more just a couple, one to two, whatever. So I like that you picked out just the two. But again, obviously, multiple people went through probably way worse, some easier, luckily. Yeah. But no, that's wild.
Yeah, people in Iowa, the western part of Iowa, they were actually fairly reprieved from this because the storm happened a little bit later in the day for them.
Oh.
So they didn't get caught out in it.
I was to say most of them probably were home by then.
Yes.
Kind of shit.
Yes.
Just so luckily.
Yes.
Proximity to where it came, they got lucky that way. Whereas it took those North Dakota Territory people by surprise, more or less.
Yep.
Wow, that's wild.
It was the Dakota Territory, western Missouri, eastern Nebraska, and a little bit of western Iowa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This book by David Laskin was a freaking godsend. He had an index of the people. My God. Like, okay, so I like to buy Kindle books because I can search. I can highlight. I can search.
Yep.
And this is a library book. And the fact that there was an index saved me.
Oh, well, yeah, because you couldn't go through and highlight and then check back your notes or whatever.
Right.
I mean, you can use Post-its and stuff, but it's hard. So it's nice that you're able
was so helpful.
to utilize that. So thank you, David.
Yeah.
Wonderful author.
Yeah, that was the Children's Blizzard of 1888.
Well, I'm glad to know that kids weren't falling out of the sky.
Nope.
Because that's what I thought it was. I'm just kidding. That's wild. We've been through some shitty storms in our lives. I mean,
yeah.
I know I have. Again, that one wasn't really shitty for me, but I could have died. I still can't believe my dad's just like, yeah, why don't we take a break? Okay. And then literally, this log was fucking huge. Or branch, I should say. It would have bonked me on the head and killed me instantly. But no, I've been through a few being in Wisconsin, and nothing like that, obviously.
Right.
But we also have a lot different life than they did in 1888. And I also would not go back for a perfume bottle. And now I never will, because I know. Yeah. We'll leave it be.
Poor little Walter. But he died at 93. Isn't that amazing?
I can't believe he lasted till 93. Thank you, Will. Like you said, it
was his brother Will that saved him. Yeah.
Yeah, he owed his life to his brother the rest of his life, basically, because if it wasn't for Will, luckily wandering off to go look for his brother when no one else knew where the fuck Will even went, for that matter, at that time, and learning I should get low, and just literally crawled upon his brother and then brought him back.
Yeah,
to
that's
his,
amazing.
I mean,
They just found him.
what fucking luck for Walter.
Some of these family members didn't see their loved ones for days.
Oh, I would imagine.
Days.
Yeah.
And some were even like weeks later. They would finally stumble upon someone. It's fucking crazy.
Again, look at the time frame. So, yeah, it's not like you can be like, I got to send so-and-so a text. Mm-hmm. Can't do that back then, obviously. So you didn't even have phones. You had,
telegrams and newspapers.
Yeah. So it's like, let's put an ad in the newspaper, see if so-and-so's out. You didn't even do that then because you're just looking for the people. So it's wild that the fact that you couldn't communicate. It's just weird to us because of how much you can over communicate today. It's actually quite annoying sometimes. But back then, product of the times and the means you had, you got to hope for the best and be like, well, I hope they're alive. That's just wild to think that way. But that's how it was. And Walter got lucky. Etta, not so much. I mean, she survived for just under a month after, but it's just so sad because she was supposed to go home.
She was so young.
And she was supposed to go home.
She was literally
on her way.
A day away from leaving.
But she had to go get her pay. Could you imagine if she didn't have to go get her pay, she wouldn't have been out there?
No.
So she probably would have actually survived? I mean,
potentially,
in theory.
In theory, she would have stayed at the boarding house that she was at, and then the 13th she would go
the host house that she was at.
The host house, and she would go the 9 miles to O'Neill, Nebraska, the very next day.
That's wild.
How did you like your tropical IPA?
It was good. I will say, Leinenkugel's is one of my more favorite beers. They still need to figure out how to do IPAs.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a bit more. It wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong.
I liked my Barrelman Ale, my amber ale.
Yeah. I thought you might like that one. So.
Yeah, I liked it. I am a little bit set in my ways, and I probably wouldn't go out and purchase it.
Same.
But if I was at a party and this is what they had, I would choose this. Yeah.
That's why I was glad to see that they had the 19.2 ounce cans of each of these, because they're both. When we sample beers on the podcast, we're not sure what we're going to get. I have a hard time committing to a 6-pack, or especially more than a 6-pack. Like, I bought that Corona for the Origin one. The
Angel's Glow? Was that Angel's Glow?
I believe so. Yeah, I think that's the one we did that on. But was it Sunbrew Citrus Cerveza, I believe it's called, right? I had a feeling we're going to probably like this. And we did, do.
Yeah.
I have purchased a couple 12-packs since then. She's taking a sip. She's looking at me weird, which is normal. Welp.
I suppose.
All right, buffoons. That's it for today's episode.
Buckle up because we've got another historical adventure waiting for you next time. Feeling hungry for more buffoonery? Or maybe you have a burning question or a wild historical theory for us to explore?
Hit us up on social media. We're History Buffoons Podcast on YouTube, X, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also email us at historybuffoonspodcast@gmail.com. We are Bradley and Kate. Music by Corey Akers.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts and turn those notifications on to stay in the loop.
Until next time, stay curious and don't forget to rate and review us.
Remember, the buffoonery never stops.